near Thomas. Still dark out, and there are a number of DPS troopers on the scene there. So there is heavy slowing as you come southbound on the 101. You may want to think about Indian School Road as an alternate if you are tight for time. Eastbound I-10, of course, it bunches up right there at the 101, and this crash isn't helping anything. You're going to have to tack on a few extra minutes there. And then we are seeing a little bit of slowing now, starting to build, transitioning from the northbound Loop 202 southbound freeway to the eastbound I-10 coming into downtown Phoenix. Have a new crash involving a motorcycle this morning, 16th Street and Thomas, and also working another crash, 39th Avenue, just north of Southern. Traffic is brought to you by Asset Preservation Wealth and Tax. Join Stuart Willis for the Asset Preservation Hour each week as he empowers and educates those in or near retirement. Sundays at 2 p.m. right here at KTAR. John Moore, KTAR News.
Yep, 100 today. That's the distinct possibility with a sunny sky. 102 possible tomorrow after an overnight low around 70. Your weather is brought to you by Howard Air and Plumbing. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air and Plumbing.
Ooh. What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs. You sound very calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees. Nice. Find your business comp at ooma.com/radio.
Spring cleaning isn't just for clutter. Let Benjamin Franklin Plumbing take care of your appliances. From water heater replacement or repair to advanced water filtration installation, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing is here to provide a worry-free summer for you and your family. Visit BenjaminFranklinPlumbing.com to schedule. You can count on the punctual plumbers. For your comfort and safety come first. Book now. Visit BenjaminFranklinPlumbing.com.
When you help St. Mary's Food Bank feed Arizona families in need, it feeds something in you too. It feels great knowing you're helping others put food on the table. And it feels like nothing to your wallet. Because you get a dollar for dollar Arizona charitable tax credit, up to $938. So donate today at stmarysfoodbank.org. You feed others, and your kindness doesn't cost you a thing.
Is kitchen or bathroom remodeling something you or someone you know might be considering right now? Well, if you're serious, I'm inviting you to my house, the Rosie Wright Design Studio.
His op-ed criticizing Trump. He later wrote a book and lifted his anonymity. In yesterday's order, Trump accused Taylor of treasonous behavior, and now Taylor will be the subject of an investigation by the department he once worked for.
So this sounds sort of similar to the executive orders Trump has issued against private law firms.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a theme throughout the first few months of his administration. A lot of what Trump has been focused on is political retribution, whether it's law firms that are not aligned with his interests or university leaders who don't share his worldview. Trump has been directly focused on dealing with all of these perceived enemies.
So what does this tell us about the priorities of the president and his administration?
Well, I mean, if nothing else, it seems like a lot of his priorities right now have a lot to do with his first term. He remembers who had his back at the time and who didn't. It's worth noting that this is an example of the Department of Justice being weaponized against people who criticized Trump in the past, which was a fear that many Democrats vocalized ahead of the election and something that Republicans accused Democrats of doing while in office, specifically around January 6th.
NPR political correspondent Ashley Lopez. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.
Morning edition here on KJZZ. We'll have the Marketplace Morning Report for you in 10 minutes. There's a sell-off this morning in the market for U.S. Treasury bonds. Amid ongoing market jitters about the impacts of tariffs on the global economy after the big day yesterday will set the stage for what looks to be an arrow pointing down on Wall Street today. We'll have the latest on that. Marketplace coming up at 5:52 on 91.5.
KJZZ is supported by Boyce Thompson Arboretum. Nature lovers can experience the Arizona desert in bloom this spring. Acres of gardens, wildlife trails, and more. A botanical garden destination in Superior, Arizona. btarboretum.org.
Here we go. 100 is the forecast high in Phoenix today.
KJZZ's sustainability reporting is supported in part by Carlisle Companies, a Phoenix
Support for NPR comes from the station and from Eric and Wendy Schmidt through the Schmidt Family Foundation, working toward a healthy, resilient, secure world for all. On the web at theschmidt.org. From Jarl and Pamela Moe, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts. And from the Walton Family Foundation, working to create access to opportunity for people and communities by tackling tough social and environmental problems. More information is at waltonfamilyfoundation.org.
You are listening to KJZZ's Morning Edition, and I'm Phil Lansman. Welcome. Well, firefighting is already among the most hazardous professions, but there is a hidden killer proving to be even more dangerous. Cancer rates among fire rescue personnel have skyrocketed in recent years. And as I found out, a new locally produced documentary aims to bring awareness to their cause while urging other firefighters to get screened before it's too late. The documentary is called Dying to Save You. It features 3 local fire captains, including Bill Reaney, who spent 35 years on the truck in Phoenix.
We never worried about the smoke. We never worried about the carcinogens that were soaking into our skin. We never cleaned our stuff. We didn't, unless we got blood all over it, then we would clean it.
Reaney wishes he knew then what he knows now.
Put the AFFF foam, PFAS, and all the carcinogens that we get from every house fire soaking into our bodies. There's your base for every type of cancer that we're getting.
He was first diagnosed back in 1999 and has since been 3 more times. Reaney has had his prostate, urethra, rectum, and bladder all removed. He uses both colostomy and uroscopy bags and is in constant pain.
They weren't able to control the pain. And I honestly didn't think that a human could suffer that much and still live.
The film also introduces us to fellow Phoenix fire captain Anthony Mock.
Felt 100% fine. A few days after my scan, I got a call saying that they found something in my imaging. I had cancer in my right kidney as well as my right adrenal gland.
Only in his 30s, with a young family, Mock had his adrenal gland and part of his kidney removed, but the damage had been done.
Cancer is spread it's throughout both lungs. It's in my rib cage, indicating bone metastasis. It's in my colon, 6 tumors on my liver, a couple of lymph nodes in my chest.
The documentary was written, directed, and edited by Patrick Graham, who was commissioned by the Firefighters Union, Local 493, to shed light on an epidemic among rescue workers.
Sat on a lot of couches at firefighters' homes with their spouses and their kids running around and heard some demolishing stories.
In a blunt and at times graphic way, Graham wants to bring attention to the underreported aspect of occupational cancers among firefighters.
I was trying to connect you with these suffering human beings, and they're just the terrible things they've had to go through. The worry, the pain, the suffering, just being scared.
Dr. Virshali Shukla is a radiation oncologist in Scottsdale who's been treating many of those firefighter patients.
I see 2 to 3 a week, and it's very common for me to walk into a room with a 30-year-old and say, "You have a very bad cancer."
Shukla says early detection can make all the difference.
Picking it up early and diagnosing it early means minimal treatment, so often just surgery, sometimes chemo, sometimes radiation. Picking it up late means surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, immunotherapy, clinical trials, and then they still may not live.
Bill Reaney recently retired from Phoenix Fire. Although he lives with persistent pain and discomfort, he's been declared cancer-free. Anthony Mock was not as lucky. He died at age 39 in January.
The hardest thing was saying at the end of the film that he had died. So you meet him in the film, you hear his story in the film, you hear his plea for other firefighters to go get their cancer screenings because Anthony had no symptoms. Anthony was just a regular human being walking around and had no idea he had cancer inside his body.
Reaney says Mock was the reason why he agreed to tell his own story.
This whole thing could have turned out way differently if he had early detection. He made me realize how important this was. And I didn't know, though, that guys weren't getting
stories around the world.
Good morning, I'm Laura Kane at the BBC. Financial markets in Asia and Europe have made gains after a 90-day pause on higher US tariffs was announced by Donald Trump. The BBC's Nick Marsh is in Singapore.
There's been a big sigh of relief being breathed in stock markets here in Asia and around the world. Shares in Tokyo, Seoul, Taipei, you name it, all shooting up, recouping their losses from yesterday and previous days. These are all key manufacturing hubs here in Asia, of course, major exporters to the US. Their economies rely a lot on free trade.
Meanwhile, Mr. Trump's raised tariffs on goods from China to 125%. Elsewhere, the head of Israel's Air Force says he'll dismiss reservists who've demanded that the return of Israeli hostages be prioritized over fighting Hamas. More than 1,000 Air Force reservists, most of them retired, signed a letter calling for the policy. The military says it can't allow reservists to engage in political protests. And Russia and the United States have carried out another prisoner swap. Here's Steve Rosenberg.
Ksenia Karenin, on a trip to Russia last year to visit family, was arrested, convicted of treason, and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Her crime, donating around $50 to a US-based charity that provides support to Ukraine. But Russia has now freed her.
In return, the US is reported to have released Arthur Petrov, a dual German-Russian citizen. I'm Nora Kane at the BBC in London.
And here in Phoenix, Morning Edition on 91.5.
KJZZ is supported by the Arizona Lottery. You can play to celebrate the end of the week and to uplift your community. Every time you play, you're supporting local programs and organizations like Arizona's universities. Arizona Lottery. Love the play.
And into the triple digits we go. Place your bets. It'll be today or tomorrow. 100 is the forecast high today, though. Daily average 84. Likely another triple digit day tomorrow and Saturday. Right now, it's 70 degrees in Phoenix at 5:52.
How to plan money decisions when the economic rules change in a blink.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is currently looking for individuals in a variety of career fields who are interested in building a career and joining an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. After President Trump's abrupt U-turn on tariffs yesterday affecting most countries in the world but China, stock prices soared. The stock market posted its third biggest single-day jump since the Second World War, with the NASDAQ in the end up 12%, but NASDAQ futures are back down this morning, 2.6% at the moment. Investors have just been reminded that the economic landscape can be painted over in an instant. President Trump saying that he acted, quote, instinctively more than anything else. Russ Mould is investment director at UK-based AJ Bell.
Having to try and manage your money according to policy which can change very quickly, or a social media post which can appear even quicker, is very, very difficult. So I think the secret is really, if you possibly can, not get dragged into the moment-to-moment, day-to-day news. If you've taken a little bit more risk than you feel comfortable with, maybe that's what you need to be checking for, because in the end, investing is about patient accumulation overnight, and if it's keeping you awake at night, then you probably have taken more risk than perhaps you thought, and maybe that's what you should be checking on.
Crude oil using the New York price is under $61 a barrel as we speak, down this morning. That, I think, is in part a bet that some big economies around the world could be headed for an economic downturn amid all this uncertainty about, for instance, world trade. You must see risks of a downturn, Mr. Mould.
I think the longer that we have this policy uncertainty, I think that's a very, very genuine risk. And I must admit, I'm glad I'm talking about this rather than actually running a company. You've got an awful lot of different things to think about. You don't know from one day to the next whether, America or one of your other potentially biggest trading partners is putting tariffs on or not. And that's going to be a really, really difficult thing for you to navigate. Under those circumstances, therefore, there has to be a risk that executives just sit on their hands, don't make that investment, don't make that hire, and that could still lead to the slowdown that many people were fearing, like, say, Goldman Sachs, before the president decided to impose the 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs.
Russ Mould, investment director at the UK-based investment platform AJ Bell. Thank you very much.
Okay, no, it's a pleasure to help.
The big U.S.-China tariffs do remain. The U.S. 125%, China 84%. Not are products that U.S. farmers tend to sell in China and have trouble selling elsewhere. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has that.
Washington and Beijing are playing a game of chicken, and that includes chicken feet.
If U.S. products get too expensive in China, American farmers are worried about losing a key market for things like chicken feet that people in many other countries don't eat, but the Chinese love.
We very well could take a hit.
Davy Stevens raises chickens in Clinton, Kentucky, specifically broilers for Pilgrim's Pride, so he doesn't sell directly to China, but he knows it's the market for chicken feet. He's hoping Chinese consumers love them so much they won't blink at higher prices.
When you go somewhere in the supermarket or go to eat, if there's something you really want and it's a delicacy you're willing to pay and you've got the money, you're probably going to pay for it. And the emerging middle class I've seen evolve into China, maybe the consumer's willing to pay more.
Pig parts that don't appeal to Western palates are also big in China.
Snouts, feet, ears, organs, those types of products.
That's Joe Sheely, spokesman for the U.S. Meat Export Federation, a trade group. He says U.S. pork will now face a total 131% import tax in China. China imports almost 60% of U.S. pork parts, so it would be a difficult market to replace, although Sheely says they've tried.
We have made an effort to, for example, ramp up our promotion of those types of products in Latin America, Southeast Asia, places like that. Unfortunately, you piece those markets together, they really don't add up to what China is able to take.
Sheely says the cost of animal feed is falling, driven by lower prices for corn and soybean meal, and that could partially cushion the blow if the Chinese market for pork and pig parts took a big hit from tariffs. But farmers don't have a huge profit margin because they're paying higher prices for other things.
You're looking at everything from building materials to insurance to fuel costs.
Add the uncertainty of the tariff war to the mix, and Sheely says it's no wonder that farmers are concerned about losing a key market for products that much of the world doesn't want. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
President Trump said yesterday that it was market jitters that prompted him to bail on tariffs for now. Yesterday, we had been reporting on strains in the bond market, but today the bond market is up with the 10-year interest rate down to 4.32%. The consumer price index for March just came in, down 0.2% for the month. Year over year, prices went up 2.4%, down from the annual rate of 2.8% registered in February. Gas prices were way down.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, dedicated